My name is Alex Cruz-Farmer. As Tom mentioned, I'm one of the PMs over at ThousandEyes. I'm going to be talking about ThousandEyes Network Assurance. Going to go through some of the things that we've announced here at Cisco Live. Cool. So as I mentioned, we're going to do an introduction to ThousandEyes. We're going to talk to you about what we've been announcing at Cisco, Cisco Live at the news, and then we're also going to drag you kicking and screaming if we can over to our booth 3322. We've got a giant booth and we'd love to see you there. We have, as Tom mentioned, a bunch of really awesome t-shirts this year. We've got a chat BGP t-shirt, which I really want to get my hands on. We've got some of the old classics with an obscene word and traceroute related to it. So we'd love to give some of those away. I think we have 6,000, so please come on over. All right, well, without further ado, let's just jump into ThousandEyes, who we are, what we're all about. So, we've really had to embrace digital transformation. The way we look at it at ThousandEyes is looking at your apps, your people, and your infrastructure. And obviously, as we know, that visibility and control has dramatically shrunk. We were used to be in that world where, you could walk into a data center, you could see the flashing lights, you could have something tangible, you could move a cable, you could trip over a cable that someone had patched across the rows that they shouldn't have done, and actually cause an outage. But now all outages are mostly configuration based. We now got this whole application stack, which is no longer something we use. We now have moved to SaaS and APIs. Our offices are now really our homes. And this whole hybrid working has been really, really well embraced. And most importantly, the network is now really the backbone of the internet, is now our new network. So the challenge with that is it brings a whole load of new blind spots. If we consider that from where we are at TechField day-to-day presenting, to the applications that we're using for streaming, to even Microsoft 365 that I'm presenting from today, there are so many different SaaS applications that we touch. So if something doesn't go well or something breaks, it's like, well, is it you? Is it me? Is it us? Is it the internet? Is it my device? Is it, is it the edge? Is it the CDNs? What is it that's causing these problems? So these massive blind spots massively erode the ability to manage and understand how we can maintain the applications that we have on a day-to-day basis. So looking at ThousandEyes, we have three sort of core pillars to our platform. We look at visibility, we look at intelligence, and we look at workflows. When we talk about visibility, we're really looking about thinking about like the number of different vantage points that we have. So whether that be our cloud agents, which are things that we manage, with ThousandEyes managed, that we have distributed across the world in 200 plus locations. We've got our enterprise agents, which you can deploy in Cisco equipment, as well as in VMs, in infrastructure as a service providers, AWS, GCP, whatever it may be. And then also our endpoint agents, which is the area that I focus on, which is something that gets deployed on an end user's device. On all of those different different vantage points, you can run a plethora of different tests. I won't spend too much time going through them, but we're looking at infrastructure from a layer 2, layer 3 perspective, all the way up to layer 7, looking at the application health, understanding what's going on. Is there a DNS problem? Is there an application problem? Is it responding performantly? If it's not, is there an API that's causing a problem? Really drilling down into where exactly that problem is. And finally, what we do is we take all of that data, take all of that information, we consolidate that down into what we call global intelligence and insights. So that's where we really lead to this intelligence part of our ecosystem. And this is all about all of this data that we're collecting from all these phenomenal vantage points. Well, how do we make that meaningful and actionable for you? How can we actually get you to mean time to identification, or in some situations, mean time to innocence as quickly as possible? And we do that by taking that data, correlating that against other things that we see, understanding where potentially those issues are, visibility into that entire end-to-end digital value chain, and then most importantly, being able to contextualize that with other data that we have. So one of the coolest things that we have is thousandeyes.com/outages. You can see our live outage map of both applications as well as networks. Obviously, we had a Microsoft 365 outage over the last few days. And again, we saw that in bright lights on our ThousandEyes dashboards. And it's one of the things that, again, when there's an outage, who is it? Is it me? Is it you? Is it my provider? And if we can give you the answers to that as quickly as possible, we're in a phenomenal position to make you successful. And to, most importantly, make sure that your boss who wants to know what's going on can get that answer as quickly as possible. No war rooms are required. And then finally, what we do is we look at the different workflows that are attached. So when we look at ThousandEyes, we talk about the common operating language. And what we mean by that is, well, our network teams have got access to this data, but what about our help desk? What about our application teams? What about our UC teams? All of these different teams need access to that same information. So what we do at ThousandEyes is we provide that information through views, something I'll show you in a moment. We show that information through our dashboards and reports. But most importantly, the dashboard and reporting capabilities that we have allow you to build those dashboards and reports in a way that's meaningful and actionable for those different teams. Your IT team really care about end user compute, what's CPU usage, memory, who's running hot, who's not running hot. How's Wi-Fi performance? So we're now sort of bridging the IT team, network team piece. If you're a Meraki user, it's generally your IT team is going to own those Meraki devices. They want to know what the Wi-Fi performance is like. But then you may have your networking team, if you're a bigger organization, a dedicated network team who are wanting to understand, how's SD-WAN performing? Is it performing the way it should be? If it's not performing, well, where do I need to go? Who do I need to talk to? If there's an application problem, where do I go? But most importantly, most importantly, your help desk is the one that's going to generate these tickets, or escalations, I should say. The end users are going to come in with a problem. Generally speaking, you want to make sure you can enable and empower your help desk to answer those questions as quickly and efficiently as possible. Having been a network engineer in my career, the worst ever thing is to have an escalation where you have to prove it's not you. Because if you have to prove it's not you, it's so difficult to do because everything's green. So the question is, well, have you checked this and have you checked that? So really what we want to do is make sure we can empower not only the network teams and not only the application teams to understand the health of their applications, but when there is a problem, we want the help desks also to be empowered so they know what's going on and they can solve tickets. Because if we can help you as an application team get visibility into your application and the health, but we could also help your help desks, we can ultimately lower the number of tickets that you're receiving as an escalation receiving team. So again, this common operating language is critical to the success of the way our customers utilize ThousandEyes today. So what we're doing today is going through our launch payload here at ThousandEyes, and we've got a number of phenomenal announcements. Again, looking at those three tiers, the visibility, looking at the intelligence, and looking at the workflows piece. So to kick us off, one of the great things is that ThousandEyes has been inherently across a number of the Cisco ecosystems. So whether that's the Cat9Ks, whether it's the ISR platform, Nexus 9K, etc. And that's been extremely successful. Providing our customers visibility into those vantage points has been so crucial. Being able to get more vantage points, more data, more opportunities to see where the breakdowns can be, whether it be a branch office, whether it's a big headquarters, whatever it may be. But we wanted to do more, and we wanted to partner more with that, continue that partnership, I should say, with the rest of the Cisco ecosystem. So today, very, very pleased to announce, I'm sure you heard it in the keynote, we are now introducing support for the Meraki MX. The Meraki MX is a phenomenal vantage point for a lot of the smaller branch offices, as well as some of the larger branch offices out there. And really getting into grips with those different platforms and different sites is critical. I mean, one funny story is I was working with a home builder in the UK, and we were talking about how they do their deployment. They were like, yeah, we use Meraki. It's super, super flexible for us to use. It makes it very easy for a deployment, easy to manage. And they were like, but the challenge that we have today is we have to go ahead and we have to go and deploy an enterprise agent separately because we don't really and can't really justify deploying a Cat9K or whatever it may be in those sites. So actually now having the ability to deploy an enterprise agent in their home builder office, so they can do point of sale, they can do all the things that they need to do is extremely powerful. But actually what was amazing is I then had a conversation with another home builder in the US, and they literally told me exactly the same story. They had exactly the same problems, exactly the same challenges. We're using LTE, we have failover, we love Meraki, we need to have visibility when things go wrong. If we're not able to take sales, that's a huge problem. That's like six-figure sums of money that we're not able to process. That's a big, big problem. So again, bringing the ThousandEyes enterprise agent to the Meraki MX 67 and above has been a phenomenal transition for us. And again, opens up a new set of vantage points. Additionally, onward from that, we've also now baked into the WebEx RoomOS devices. Now, this has been a project that I've been working on for a number of months now. And, for those of you who have experienced trying to manage collaboration devices outside of WebEx, you know that when you're in a meeting room and you've got users who are connected on Wi-Fi and you've got the devices that collect on wired connections, and maybe the wired device has a problem or the users have a problem in the room, they don't really appreciate the complexity behind the wireless infrastructure and the network infrastructure behind the scenes. So now having that vantage point from the Room OS device is huge. So again, what we're looking at doing here is leveraging that existing Cisco hardware. We're gaining evidence to eliminate all that wasteful finger pointing, all of those incorrect escalations, and then ultimately really helping to improve that application performance with that extended visibility. So with Meraki MX, we actually have some really, really phenomenal improvements in the way that we operate. So when you deploy a Meraki MX, one of the cool things is you get really good high availability. So one of the things that we are now bringing, and what you get naturally from deploying a ThousandEyes enterprise agent within the Meraki platform, is high availability. So if there's a failure of one of your MX 67, 68s, whatever it may be, we will actually fail over seamlessly over to your B device, whatever it may be, your backup device, and this ThousandEyes endpoint agent will continue operating as if nothing had happened. And that's a phenomenal way of being able to keep continuity with your monitoring. Additionally, on top of that, one of the great things is that you can pre-stage your deployments of the ThousandEyes enterprise agents using Meraki, because one of the great things about Meraki, you can punch in the serial number, you can build your configuration before you've even got the device. You can just get that from your invoice. So what you can do is you can now do that with the ThousandEyes enterprise agent as well within Meraki's MX deployment. So let's say you're just about to do a new deployment across 50 branch offices, and you want to make sure that you have monitoring from the second it goes live, because it's so critical that in those first few days when a new site goes live, that's when the problems are going to come up. So being able to deploy your ThousandEyes enterprise agent the second that that site goes live with exactly the right tests all pre-configured is priceless. So you now have that ability to pre-stage all your devices and push them out as they go. And with the developments and the expansion of SD-WAN as a whole, ThousandEyes is there to help you along that track to make sure that every single site deployment you have is successful. And if they're not successful for whatever reason, you can pinpoint exactly why they're not successful and where those problems are. So it's a phenomenal advancement that we've got with Meraki MX. Cool. And I forgot about this slide. So anyway, we talked about this one already. And there's a really, really pretty graphic there. Okay. All right. Yeah, it's really nice. And then finally, one of the other pieces that we mentioned already, obviously, having collaboration and being able to understand why you're not able to use a WebEx device. I mean, one of the things I met a processor manufacturer in the UK, and they said to me, I said to them, hey, you've got tons of conference rooms here. How do you manage all those conference rooms? And they said, well, I'll tell you a secret. Well, it's not a secret now, so I'm going to tell all of you. But they basically said, I'll tell you a secret. When we do our upgrades or when we do changes, we spot check our meeting rooms. We don't go around every single one to make sure that they're working. And I said, well, what do you do if one of them doesn't work? And they said, well, we just wait for a user to complain. I was like, that's a terrible experience. And they're like, I know, but we're like a 3-man team. We can't go around 100, 200 meeting rooms to go and check all these things. So now with ThousandEyes on a Room OS device, we have really, really cool things that you can do. So for those that are not aware, with the endpoint agent, if your network supports WebSockets and allowing us to build a WebSocket to ThousandEyes, you can run something called an instant test. So if you go ahead and you build, I don't know, make a new firewall change, and you want to make sure all of your Room OS devices are still working, you can actually run an instant test across every single device that you have to make sure it can connect to the core services that you need. Not only that, we are also providing that ability to get end-to-end visibility into your meetings. So we launched last year something called automated session testing, and we do something really cool. For those who are experienced in collaboration will know it's literally roulette when you're trying to figure out which data center you're going to turn up on when you're starting a WebEx meeting or a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting. So what we did was we built this capability called automated session testing, which will look at the operating system. It will identify the IP addresses that the WebEx client or the Teams client or Zoom client is connecting to, and will dynamically create synthetic tests on the fly to the IP addresses. So for each one, whether it be screen sharing, video or voice, we will dynamically set those tests up from the client. The great thing is that if there's a network interruption or whatever it may be, let's say there's an outage or there's some kind of network blip, we will dynamically then change and identify when that network, maybe the node has changed on the WebEx network. We will dynamically then change to use a different edge node, and we'll update that synthetic test. And the cool thing is you can then see that data not only within ThousandEyes, but you can also see that through Control Hub. So we have a really, really great integration with Control Hub, where if you look down and drill down to an individual user who's been a participant in a meeting, you'll see a new entry called network path, and I've got a demo of that shortly that I'll show you. That's a really great way of being able to improve, again, that Cisco on Cisco play. So again, really for us at ThousandEyes, we're looking at delivering true end-to-end visibility. The more vantage points you have, the better visibility you have across the board. And again, what we can do is help you monitor not only the network, but also the device health, connectivity, understand, what's going on from the WebEx Control Hub dashboard, analyzing all of those key metrics that you have, and most importantly, leveraging that automated session testing capability to make sure you can see and understand every single part of that end-to-end digital supply chain. All right, I'm going to play you a short video and do my best to give you a voiceover for it. So for those who are familiar, this is a WebEx Control Hub. Turning on ThousandEyes is super, super straightforward. You literally drop in your OAuth API key, and that will allow you access to ThousandEyes. What we're looking at now is a call that happened, and what will then happen in a second is we'll click through into a Room OS device. So as we can see here on the second tier, we have network path. This is data that's being pulled in from ThousandEyes and being instrumented within Control Hub. What you can then do is you can drill down onto this actual network path, and the data that is being pulled in, and this is actually a Room OS device, I think it's a Desk Pro. And what we can see is essentially a breakdown on a per ISP basis. And then from each of those ISPs, we can then see the individual hops. So if there's an increase in latency or, some strange routing that's going through some very strange country that it shouldn't be, or there's an issue with, I don't know, well, there's never issues with the WebEx network. So let's say there's Microsoft Teams network, for example. If there's an issue in the network, then we can help identify that and give that visibility to the UC engineers that are using this. And then when they need to, we can cross-launch directly from WebEx into ThousandEyes and be able to then drill down and understand each part of that digital value chain to understand exactly where those issues and challenges are. So it's a really, really great technology. But we also have our agent view, which is a consolidated set of metrics. And again, all of the data that we have is available there. One of the really cool, exciting things that we heard about today was the announcement of the new Cisco SSE, the new Cisco Secure Access offering. ThousandEyes are going to be a very, very integral part of SSE, providing that digital experience monitoring component, which is extremely important whenever you've got anything security-based. But the foundation of that, and the most important part of what we're really announcing, is that we are now providing the ThousandEyes Endpoint Agent as a module within the Secure Client. So now when you do the installation of the Secure Client, you can now install the ThousandEyes Endpoint Agent side by side. Again, this significantly improves the sort of installation friction that we understand that customers have, and the agent fatigue of having lots and lots of agents to manage and that kind of thing. So now, as being part of a module, we can streamline that installation.
Is that supporting all platforms and architectures that the Secure Client supports?
Today we support Mac and Windows. We are working on a Linux variant as well.
That's x86 and ARM?
x86 today, and we are going to be working on ARM.
Okay, so you're not going to do current Macs?
We do support Macs. Our endpoint agent does work on Macs, but it's using the backward compatibility.
Got it.
But we haven't got native support yet, but it does work today. And we do. I mean, I'm running an M1 now with the endpoint agent installed.
Okay, but that's on the radar.
Excellent. Yeah, we do want to have native. Yeah.
Perfect.
So what we have here is the ThousandEyes event detection piece. So one of the things that we do really well at ThousandEyes is provide you a really rich data set. And it gives you the opportunity to slice and dice that however you need, be able to understand exactly what's going on with that network. But often there are going to be these small blips that happen, maybe a 2-minute outage here and there. And to be honest, if we're all very honest with ourselves, when there's a small outage like that, depending on what it is, we're not going to invest the time and the effort really to dig down into it, because not many people are usually going to be affected by that. But actually what we're going to do now is we're going to correlate that data together. We're going to look at all of the tests that you're running, all of the agents that you have. And remember, the more vantage points you have, the more data you have, the better visibility you have, the better correlation we can make. What we're going to do is pull all of that information together and generate an event for you. And what do I mean by that? Well, we want you to be in a position where you can rock up to ThousandEyes, you can receive a call, or maybe you've just noticed that we've sent you an event notification, and you're like, well, what's happening? What happened? And let's use Microsoft 365 as an example. Or actually, in fact, I have a Salesforce example to show you in a moment. But let's say Microsoft 365 or something happened. Now, obviously, through Internet Insights and application outages, we will be able to give you visibility into that there's been an event that's happened. But what that doesn't necessarily tell you immediately is, well, how many people are really impacted by this problem? So what we want to do is give you that visibility to understand how many people are impacted by this issue. How long has it been? How long has it happened for? What is the root cause? Where is that problem? Where is that problem along the track? So what we can do is try and help you contextualize that. And we want to give you that in one digestible format. So if you like, we give you a haystack today. What we're going to do is take away that haystack and we're just going to give you the needles. So that's going to really, really help you visualize and understand exactly what happens, how many outages, how many agents, how many networks are affected. We want to give you all of that context in a digestible format. So it makes it, as I said before, very meaningful and actionable. And that's what we want you to be able to walk away with. We're firstly starting off and focusing this on our cloud and enterprise agents. So that's going to be the real core of what we're looking at. And then we'll be expanding this out to the endpoint agents as well. The outage that I'm going to show in a moment with a demo is very, very much focused on a Salesforce outage that happened. Now, I picked this up through our alerts, and I spoke to our research team. And I was like, "Hey, did you see any outages?" And they're like, "Yeah, we saw this Salesforce one." I was like, "Sweet, this is so cool!" Like, you actually gave me more information about how many people were impacted from your kind of very CLI-based output here, but it showed that our algorithms are working. And so we're super excited about the progress that we're making there. And we're really, really wanting to get that in customers' hands as quickly as we can. But what's important is we want to make sure that the information we're giving is valuable and it's meaningful and it's not noisy. So it's going to take a little bit of time, but we're making some really, really good progress there.
I work in the security teams, not networking teams. Typically, I don't get access to these portals. But if I wanted some information of outage, I assume you'd have some sort of API I could send to that portals I do get access to.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would probably, yes, is the answer. We absolutely provide that data via API. One of the things I would say is that coming back to like common operating language, I think that we have very successfully managed to have the ThousandEyes tool expanded across different parts of the organization because we've been able to show the value. The additional part is, not everybody wants to have ThousandEyes just in their one budget, and they'd love to be able to claw that back from other people. So it's often a conversation about, well, where can we add value? So again, a lot of our customers will start with, say, the cloud and enterprise agents, and they'll get visibility into, security applications. But then you kind of hit on this situation where it's like, well, I've got a whole bunch of users on a VPN, and everybody complains about the VPN. So how can I have visibility into that? And then have the security team understand where those problems are. And if it is a network problem, well, how can I deal with that? Is the problem actually on the overlay? Is it a security problem? Is it a misconfiguration issue? Actually, in fact, I had a really good story, a really great win for one of our big healthcare customers. They had a big town hall meeting. It's like, I don't know, 30, 40,000 people turned up for this town hall meeting. They'd done tons of preparation. They had reworked their infrastructure. They'd found a CDN that was able to provide the video streaming and all this kind of stuff. They were really proud of what they set up. And we were working with them, just making sure we had all the monitoring set up. They then had this scenario where a bunch of users were complaining that they had a problem. And what they said to us is, look, if we hadn't had ThousandEyes, the endpoint agent on here, we would have sent those users on their merry way. And those users were complaining that they had choppy video, choppy audio. They couldn't really see anything. They were frustrated. They were missing the big announcements. And the IT team were like, yeah, I mean, we would never have had any visibility. So we would have just sent them completely away. But what was interesting is what they said is, well, when we logged into ThousandEyes, we actually found out that all these users have one thing in common. They were all going through a VPN, which they're not supposed to be, because we were split tunneled out the CDN and we did all this stuff and we invested loads of time and effort into this. And what we then found is that even though it was only a small subset of users that really should never have had a problem anyway, regardless of whether we're going through a VPN, you actually found this bottleneck in our infrastructure we didn't even know existed. And we hadn't had it covered in our usual monitoring. So actually there was this huge cascading win that we had. So not only was there a misconfiguration in one of their VPN gateways where they'd not done split tunneling, they'd identified that because we were able to give the underlay and the overlay visibility. We'd also identified a huge bottleneck within their infrastructure. So it actually had a really phenomenal win for them, and actually saved them a lot of heartache and a lot of, I guess, yes, exactly, and a lot of annoyed users. So again, the event detection piece plays very, very well into that story, and that's definitely where it will improve. And again, coming back to the whole piece about that common operating language, we want to enable multiple teams to use the same data, because if you're all using the same data, you're on a level playing field. And I think it will help. Cool. Thank you. All right. And then the final one, and I think this is one of the journeys that we're embarking on, is ThousandEyes data is phenomenal. We pull in a lot of really useful information. We are, the Google Maps of the internet, if you like. But what's interesting is that we need to add more context. Sure, we do geo-IP lookups, we understand ISPs, we know what IP is owned by who. But actually what would be phenomenal is if you are an AWS customer and there's always that kind of crazy web of different nodes that happen when you're using AWS, wouldn't it be great if you knew what those nodes actually did, whether they were like EC2 or whether they were like accelerator or whatever it may be? So what we're doing is we're actually pulling in data from AWS to be able to add context to the IP addresses that are on our path visualization, to help you understand exactly what is going on and exactly what nodes are doing what, and potentially even what nodes are failing, what applications are failing, what part of the infrastructure is not working the way it should do. So again, we're on this really great journey of being able to pull data in. We're going to be expanding this third-party data ingestion as well to other parts of other parts of ThousandEyes. Again, endpoint as well as cloud and enterprise agent. So again, we want to make sure the data that you've got is meaningful and actionable. It's so important that we get you to that mean time to identification, mean time to resolution as quickly as we can.
Question.
Yes.
So obviously, AWS is the 800-pound elephant in the room.
Yes.
What about other cloud providers like GCP and Azure?
I can't speak to them specifically, but I was kind of alluding to we're on that journey.
Maybe sort of going that way.
Yeah.
Kind of sort of wink, wink.
Yes, exactly. Wink, wink. It'd be silly for us not to do that. So yeah, we are on that journey. Cool. All right. So as I mentioned, Salesforce had a very, very, very tiny, quick outage. It was like, I mean, we can just see this spike here. I can just kind of zoom in over here, and we can see. So they had a very, very small outage. I mean, it was a space of a few minutes. Something that generally you would not have really seen on, it was what, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Pacific time. So not many people would care. But obviously in the UK, that's like 10 a.m. That's like prime time. The people, and they've had the coffee, they're like hitting the phone. It's a critical time when they need to get access to it. So what we did was when we received this notification, we started having a dig down, and from the US we saw, well, okay, yeah, there's definitely a problem here, and what we could do is we could kind of drill down into the Salesforce network to kind of understand what was happening. And again, we've got this sort of hop by hop breakdown and to understand exactly the context and who's affected, who's not affected, and what's happening. But what was really fascinating for me, and this is where it kind of changed the story a little bit, and I don't know for sure whether this is what happened, but this seems to me like it could potentially have been a DDoS attack on Salesforce. Because interestingly, some of our users were able to reach Salesforce. Some users were able to get into the Salesforce network. They had high latency, they had some packet loss. But actually what was interesting is as we scrolled down, we saw that users who were hitting the BT infrastructure just stopped in the BT infrastructure at peering points, at peering nodes. And this user, for example, it looks like they were kind of connecting via PlusNet. It looks like they were trying to connect via the London Internet Exchange. And then there was another peering point that they attempted. So there was a lot of times where all the connections through to this particular node were sort of flapping around on different networks. So I have a feeling that they may have been DDoSed or had some significant network problem, but it was very fast. It was really quick. And that's something, again, that a lot of people wouldn't really pick up or notice. And again, this is where that event detection piece would paint this picture for you, explain what had happened to give you that context. And this actually opens you up to a phenomenal position to have a conversation with Salesforce. One of the great things that you can do with ThousandEyes, once you've got this context and you understand what's going on, and again, we kind of give you the opportunity to look at the individual links that are having problems, and we saw increased latency like 747 milliseconds. So again, it seems like a congestion problem. So again, I think it was something to do with a DDoS attack. But what the power of what ThousandEyes gives you is, as I mentioned earlier, we give you that opportunity to see under and sort of below the VPN, so the underlay of the VPN. So if we wanted to, let's say, really rule out whether this was actually a problem with the VPN, whether it was a problem with the network, we can actually drill down into the VPN and we can see all of the different ISPs, all of the different nodes between the user and the VPN. And most importantly, we can then see on the overlay as well, so the connection from the VPN over across to the Salesforce network. In this instance, this user who was connecting via VPN actually could get to the Salesforce infrastructure. But their latency was, 1.5 seconds, which is absolutely crazy. So again, congestion problem, maybe a DDoS, something like that. But most importantly, in less than 15, 20, maybe 60 seconds, I've been able to kind of explain and have a good idea as to what's happened with this event. But the really cool thing that we can do is we can enable superpowers. Because I'm on an admin account here. What we can do is we can now jump in and we can do something called creating a snapshot, or what we sometimes call a share link. And the power behind this is that I can now create a snapshot. I can just name this Salesforce, Salesforce outage. And what I can do is I can say, hey, give me the date range, 4 hours, 1 hour, whatever, around, include these different tests. And what I want to do is I want to allow anyone with this link, with this extremely long URL here, to view this. So if I hit copy here and I click save and share and I give it maybe about 10 or 15 seconds, what I can now do is go and communicate with Salesforce and say, hey, I've seen an outage. And they may say, we didn't see anything. And it's like, well, we did. And then it comes to this whole thing, well, prove it.
Prove it, yeah.
Exactly, prove it. So what you can now do is I can just drop this in. I can drop the share link in. And now I can share with Salesforce an anonymized version of that data. There's no PII. We've anonymized the user's information. There's no SSID visible. The first initial ISP that they're leaving from, again, is all obfuscated. So we've been very, very cautious about making sure that users are protected. But what we have done is given them enough information to know and understand that users who are connected via VPN or users that are connecting via whatever means possible struggled to get to the Salesforce network. And again, this is a super powerful resource for someone like Salesforce to know, yes, there was a problem. We can even tell you how long it was, where exactly it was. So again, it gives you that authority to be able to have that conversation.
No question, but that's really cool.
Yeah, I've seen a demo
Yeah.
of this before from you guys, and it is incredibly powerful to be able to, especially going across to SaaS providers.
Yes. I mean, one of the funny things is that there's a particular CDN who is now a customer of ours because so many of our customers kept on going to them saying, hey, you've got a network problem. They was like, no, everything's fine. And we're like, well, no, our share links that we got from ThousandEyes say different. And they basically came to us and said, look, we're so sick and tired of our customers coming to us telling us that they know our network better than we do. So we're actually going to have to buy your product. So we were on a level playing. We're like, okay, well.
Did you find their problem?
The share links showed them the problem, and I think that was the bigger problem for them. But yeah, it's been a really, they're still a customer today. And again, having this intelligence, having the visibility has been so powerful for them.
Do you have the ability to show us a little bit about the new Meraki integration?
Sure, I'm going to hand that over to Tyler, who is the PM on that side.
Yes, I am unmuted. What's your question about the Meraki
I just
integration?
wanted to see a little bit of, see a little demo about it. So
I think I have the video.
Yeah, we haven't been doing demos on the presentations, but we have actually a live demo in the Cisco networking booth in 3303.
You said MX68 and above.
Yeah, so it's
67,
67,
67.
yeah, 67, 68, 75, 85, 95, 105, 250, and 450 are the supported models. And what's really cool about it, beyond what the stuff that Alex talked about with all the power we get from Meraki Cloud, is it also just really simplifies the deployment of ThousandEyes. So one of the great things is it's like 4 clicks through the Meraki dashboard, and you can use network tags within Meraki to filter the networks you want to enable and activate with ThousandEyes. You just check the box, choose an application that you want to monitor using a test template. So we have this new thing we launched a few weeks back called test templates. We're integrating into the Meraki dashboard of this. So you choose the target you want to test to, you click start monitoring, 2 or 3 minutes goes by, and all of those MXs come online with agents monitoring to that target. And then you start getting that data in your ThousandEyes interface. So it's very simple to deploy at scale thanks to the power of the Meraki SD-WAN platform.
Is this the one?
What about the legacy Viptela integration? I guess it would be called what? Catalyst SD-WAN in the cloud, right?
Yeah, so we've had an existing integration to deploy agents, and we continue to support Cat 8200s, the general Cat 8K platform, the ISR 4Ks. Some of the 1Ks we're going to potentially do things later with more, but we have a way to run the agent using Cisco Application Hosting Framework on Viptela SD-WAN routers.
Sure, if this was mentioned, but what licensing level was required on Meraki for this? Was it the SD-WAN?
For Meraki?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what license level is required? So right now it is SD-WAN plus license required. That is correct. So the actual component that you access is under the Insight tab, which is part of the Meraki Insights product that is included in your SD-WAN plus license. We do have an intention in the future, post-release, to extend it to advanced security customers, but for right now it is SD-WAN plus only.
Yeah, because some of the other add-ons like Umbrella and Threat Grid and stuff are at that level. So
Yes, yeah. Yeah, it's a tie-in with Meraki Insights because it's part of giving you insights within Meraki. Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting when this isn't your first ball game. We've seen a lot of the ThousandEyes stuff already, and we're all quite impressed with it. So it's like, we're like, well, we could possibly ask the same questions we asked before, I guess. But
Yeah.
but you really put the package together quite nicely.
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely been very much focused on sort of improving that experience, making sure that, we're not just focusing on the networking teams, we're also focusing on like IT and the help desk personas. And I think that's really, really helped that kind of common operating language model that we've been talking about. But yeah, I mean, I think that some of the core things that we do are really cool. And I think, having that journey where we're doing more Cisco on Cisco integrations, I think will really help improve the vantage point, improve the visibility. But yeah, and in fact, one thing we can do whilst we're here is we could have a quick look into that. We can have a look into the outage that happened with 365.
Which one?
As a Microsoft outage.
Sorry, that's why that's funny.
Oh, hang on, let me go on application outages. Here we go. All right, I'll just take all of these. I'm not sure which ones are going to show up, but all right, here we go.
The outages.
All the outages. Okay, so as we can see over the last over the last couple of days, there has sort of been 4 sort of major incidents. Some bigger than others. But the great thing is, again, being able to just like drill down and then click on one of these to understand what the impact was. And what we can see is, Germany was impacted, Singapore was impacted. But as we go further into the event, we can see that more and more and more was impacted. So again, like this cascading event of like these knock-on issues, and then we can kind of drill down and see sort of breakdown of more regional locations, how many agents we've got in these different locations and that kind of thing. So again, it's really understanding like the type of issues. Now, similarly, when there was the big Facebook outage that happened last year, I think it was last year, one of the really interesting things was that there are competing services online that can give you an idea as to whether detecting things that are down. And one of the things that we saw when Facebook had the outage was that because a lot of the data was crowdsourced from social media, AT&T was down, Verizon was down, like even like random banking sites were down because people just didn't really ever think that Facebook could go down. But actually, what was really interesting from a ThousandEyes lens, and similarly here, we saw HTTP 500 error codes. And similarly, what we're seeing here. So this suggests that there's some kind of back-end service unavailable, load balancers, trying to do their best to work, but it's just not working. But in that Facebook example that we had, we actually saw that BGP routes were being withdrawn, and then things were like cascading again, that cascading effect. And then suddenly we then saw that DNS was being withdrawn across the board as well, because again, they were using Anycast for DNS, and it was like this cascading thing, and then Facebook just like disappeared. And it was just like a really interesting thing to see. And we had this, direct visibility into it. And our customers were like, oh, hey, we know hey, Facebook's gone down. We don't really need Facebook, so that's fine. But a lot of the end users were complaining because they were like, well, if Facebook would never go down, so it must be my ISP, right? It must be this, it must be that, it must be the VPN. It's all the things that wasn't that application. So again, it's that ability to answer that question as quickly and effectively as possible. And again, in this Microsoft outage, which was pretty significant, and by the looks of it, there were 4 of them over the last sort of 24 hours. It's been pretty significant. And again, being able to not have to kick up that war room, to have that conversation about, well, what is it? Is it us? Is it them? Is it you? And this is a prime thing you can go and have a conversation with Microsoft about, SLAs, whatever it may be. And again, we can see exactly which areas, exactly which regions were impacted. We can understand, how much of my business is impacted, which parts are impacted. We often see that there are regional outages. These happen all the time. But again, now you can contextualize where that outage is. It's extremely valuable. again, thousandeyes.com/outages is our free map, which you can use at any point, and you can see exactly what's going on the internet as a live map.
So, question: if you got you're monitoring a path, and let's say you're using a native v6 path, something fails there, and they wind up falling back to a v4 path, does that register?
Good question. It should register because when from a I think we've got some work to do on our v6 support in general. But actually, if there's a failover from v6 to v4, we should, that's something we would see. I mean, even if there's a failover or a change in routing because a node's changed or there's been a DNS change or whatever it may be, and DNS entry is timed out, we will fail over to that new port.
Or you'll have the happy eyeballs thing where v6 path will be valid, but happy eyeballs will simultaneously take it to the v4, but you'll see it's going to what is essentially a similar destination, but a different protocol.
Yes.
Just wondering how that registers in the dashboard, or does it just treat it as a different destination?
It's a different destination.
Okay.
Yeah.